This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
Hello out there, good afternoon. This is the very first edition, the very first episode of the Discourse 2025. By the way, let me use this opportunity to wish you a fantastic year ahead, 2025. We had a very good Christmas with little or no incidents, at least in Lagos, and I was opportune to go around a bit. I was in the east and in the south, and I think it was relatively quiet and joyful. The difficult economic circumstances notwithstanding. So happy New Year and welcome to the first edition of the Discourse with Dr. Ken for 2025.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
Since we're dealing with classical FM, most classical episodes of 2024 Discourse with Dr. Ken, from economy to leadership to creative economy to artificial intelligence, the business of football, sports business, and I have with me as my guest Nelson Ahaneku. Let me in fact introduce him properly. Sir Nelson Ahaneku, FCA. I brought Nelson Ahaneku specifically for a good reason, because he has a good grasp of economics. He understands business, being in business advisory himself. He's a chartered accountant and has been around, has worked with multinational and traveled both locally and globally sufficiently. So he is in a very good position to analyze these episodes, and he's a keen follower of the Discourse, so he couldn't have been a better choice. Sir Nelson Ahaneku, how are you, and how has the New Year treated you so far?
Good afternoon, and Happy New Year to all of you that are listening and will listen afterwards. It's been a quiet Christmas, very uneventful, and then we enjoyed it the way we could. With whatever provisions, but it was a joyful one, quietly joyful Christmas. Thank you very much.
No, thank God for that. Whatever situation, like always say, we'll find ourselves. You remember that it could have been worse, isn't it? So we managed to roll over the Christmas, and we are in a new year. So today, Sir Nelson Ahaneku, we are going to discuss. We chose carefully different specific episodes of the Discourse of 2024, not exhaustive, but those we thought really made a lot of traction, and then we did a poll, and our listeners posted to us. But you feel free, like I said, to tell us which of those episodes caught your interest in 2024, and I will be happy to analyze it with Nelson Ahaneku. But let me start with the economy, Sir Nelson. Before I even go to the economy, let me, because it was a good time to reflect about Nigeria, because we weren't going to work for like 2 working weeks. So everybody dealing with the challenges, looking at the future. And in fact, I've seen some prophecies from some GEOs already around 2025. But let's talk 2024, and let's begin with Nigeria. And my mind kept going around this subject, Sir Nelson. How can over 200 million people work together without having a shared manifest destiny, what I call a shared manifest destiny, or a clearly defined common purpose? It looks to me like a country without a clearly defined common purpose and a manifest destiny. What do you think?
That's a bit of a difficult one here. 200 million people having a common purpose. Even 2 people in the house, even husband or wife. I think sometimes interests differ. For 200 million people, to expect them to have a common purpose.
Let me put it in perspective. When a country is put together, Sir Nelson, and when I mean countries, listen, the France is for the French people. They have a common purpose to build France in the French way. Russia is for Russians. They have come together as a country, and it is very clear to them what Russia means to them, what they expect of Russia, and what Russia should give to them. And they work towards it assiduously. America is the same. They have a dream.
Yeah, that's why it was a bit of laying a foundation. So what we have to look at, what are the things that at least when we are looking at them, we tend to coalesce together. As a people, at least we have a democracy. Even within that democracy, we have different parties. We have loyalties to but at least the election has gone, is behind us now. It's now governance. And we all have our representatives. The president keeps giving a view of what he thinks the direction of the country should be. It's a presidential system of government, and unlike what you call the UK, where you have the king and the prime minister, who together represent the sovereign. I think somehow there's been a bit of a false start, but I'm beginning to see that everybody is now saying, okay, let's, at least with the presidential chart, there's a bit of, the president has taken up to be the chief spokesman of his administration. And if I see the way he took the presidential chart, the follow-up to the New Year message, went to Enugu yesterday, even though in response to, whether in response or a coincidence, to a challenge to say visit the states, and you look at the town hall he did, that there's a bit of calm. I see a bit of calm going forward, and if you can sort of go around further and then get to see what are the pain points of the people. Although, as we see, we're all dealing with Forex, we're dealing with petrol, high price of petrol. We all agree on that one, that the economy is not what we expect it to be, but it is what it is. And then the point is now, how do we move forward? How do we ameliorate it? And then communicating to the people that it will be good, it will be better. And Nigeria is we have to fix Nigeria together. I think for me, that is what I think I want to be aligned with.
I started with manifest destiny, what I call manifest destiny, and issues around defined common purpose. Because I know that I think that for a nation, or let's even start with family unit, let's start with the villages, let's start with the communities, then state. As an entity, you must have a common vision and work towards it. So I'd like to hear your opinion on that. If you can send in your messages, what do you think? Do you think Nigeria has really defined its own common purpose? And do we have a common shared manifest destiny? Where are we going to? Is it in alignment, as a nation? So, Sir Nelson, let me, because you touched on governance, and then when you talk of governance, what quickly comes to mind is leadership. So how important and how tough is it to provide leadership in a difficult and troubling times? And when we have troubling times, the signs are there. And what are those signs? Atmosphere of fear, existential threats, for businesses, revenue pressure, and for businesses, again, margin pressure. So how difficult is it to provide leadership in circumstances of that nature?
You have led organizations. So even as a managing director, you know what it is to lead the organization. Talk less of a country with diverse ethnicities, diverse interests, diverse classes. To say it's difficult is an understatement. But what people have said is that is there the leader, is he competent? Does he have character? And quite recently, given the policies that have happened recently, people are talking about empathy. You say, okay, if you say we should follow you, it's a difficult time, tighten your belt, make sure we'll get there at the end of the tunnel, there'll be light. Can we see that you have there is some empathy as to what people are going through? Can you also show example? Leadership is by example. Can you show to us that as we are tightening our belt, you are also tightening yours, so that we can all move together? Because as a family, within a family unit, you can all agree that, look, we have to give up on this, we have to give up on a holiday, we have to give up on, so that this school fees could be paid, that could be done. And we can also extend it to a country. The family units understands that, oh, yeah, this is why we have to give up this. We have to give up some menu on the breakfast, and all of that. And then it's now a difficult thing if maybe whether it's the mother or the father is now enjoying something different and not observing that austerity, as it were. I think that leadership by example
is very important.
Is something
it's
that you have to communicate. And so people can at least follow you, to say, okay, let's be patient, let's follow you, and let's work all together.
Yes. Talking about communication, Sir Nelson, you just mentioned that I've led organizations. Yes, I quite understand how important communication is in leadership and in business. In fact, for me, it's everything. When I say it, people look at me and say, what is he talking about? What are other factors of production, money, labor, and everything? For me, communication is everything once you get communication right. So that leads me to the question. I didn't quite mean to ask that question, but now that you've mentioned communication, it leads me to morale, and so to say. So how important is morale and communication as a factor of navigating Nigeria out of difficulties? How has the communication been? How has morale? Has it been able to upscale morale? And then, around messaging, how important is that to you?
I think let's look at morale. Generally, it's difficult to measure it, but you can feel it, that morale is down across board. Unless I remember last year when we did this same review, it's same January last year, the first episode, and the previous year, which was 2023 then, that we were reviewing, we say it was such a difficult year. And I recall very well what I said then, that look, yes, it might well be difficult for a whole majority of people, but the people who had recently then been appointed into government, or 2023 will be, of course, their best year. Who would have thought that 2024 would be worse? So morale across board has been down, but of course, morale of the people who are morale is very high. One of the things they have been saying is that look towards the states. We have shared money to the states, and in fairness, there are some states that have sort of picked up the gauntlet and are moving on. But you talk about messaging. For me, the recent media chat by the president, I think it did it for me. Forget about what the content was, but at least he showed purpose. He showed tenacity, so that nobody can guess. Yeah, if it's coming from the president, nobody can now guess, second guess anything to say, well, is this other person speaking or that other person speaking? This is straight from the president. And he followed it up with the New Year message. And like I also said, the visit to Enugu yesterday was quite a lot of difference, because he took questions from the audience, although it were only three questions. But it was important for them to know. One of the questions I was taking was that, look, there are too many roadblocks in the East, and it added to the cost of goods and services, and of course one on gas and the other one on I think something else. So, and all the three questions, he took them on and answered them, and gave assurances, and it was on video recorded.
Messaging is very important.
Yes,
that's what I want to establish.
And I think
in all cases
that has helped in sort of giving a different view of the direction the country is going by this administration.
But by the way, this particular episode is not a scorecard on the president.
Yeah, well, fairness, yeah.
I'm just talking Nigeria generally and what we've discussed in 2024. And then Yes, when we talk about leadership, of course, it is easy for the president or governors to come in mind, but it's not quite a scorecard on the president.
Yeah.
So the first episode of 2024, I think thereabout, was with Tilewa Adebajo. Yeah. And he, of course, he told us how foundation was laid in 2023 that will usher in a very difficult 2024, talking economy. So I asked him, is Nigeria in receivership? If Nigeria was a company, was it in receivership? And of course, you knew the answer he gave. So how did you see that episode? And what do you think was the major takeaway from Tilewa Adebajo's episode, which, of course, was the Nigerian economy 1 year after?
Yeah, before I go to that, I would like to again commend you for this discourse, the program Discourse, because every week you continue to bring guests that speak to major thematic issues, whether it's the economy, whether it's leadership, whether it's the real economy. Because sometimes when you talk about economy, you bring economists, they tell you GDP, they tell you that, but you're also able to bring in people who are actually doing the work, which is the real economy, people in fashion, in tourism, and these sectors actually employ a lot of people, and they have impact. Even sports, they have impact on the economy. The wider economy. They are the real economy. So I commend you for that. The choice of the topics, and above all, the choice of the people to deliver on the topics. Congratulations once again. It's now how many years that this has been running every week. It's quite a lot of challenge, and kudos to all your guests who have made it, and those who come afterwards. Going back to one of your guests, Tilewa, who spoke on, it was actually 1 year after. I think 1 year after was towards the first anniversary of the Tinubu administration. So it was more like a review of where they are. And picking up from the point you talked about, insolvent. Yes, he said that if Nigeria were to be a company, AMCON would have moved in. That was what he said. But I like the way he dimensioned the issues, the structure of the economy, was able to delve into the main what you call the golden goose and the golden egg, which is the petroleum sector, and lamented why we moved from the 2.5 million barrels a day, and we're now producing just about 1.3 million barrels a day around that May 2024. Although we have moved a bit further now, they say we are producing about 1.8 million barrels. And then even the transparency of accounting the little 1.3 million barrels a day we had then, it was also a challenge. And because a lot of them had been pledged on forward contracts, and then some swaps, what you call crude swaps, where you swap the crude for petrol. And then there was no transparency around all of that. And then how the policy had been introduced then, the exchange rate policy, the fuel subsidy removal policy, and the sequencing of it, and pointed out then that it looked as if, and some other commentators also made the same comment, that some kind of cart before the horse, how that policy was going to be implemented was not exactly thought through. And I then also coincided with what you call a recovery plan that the coordinating minister was putting together, and everybody all hailed it until somehow there was another communication that had been withdrawn. Up to now, that recovery plan that was the last we heard of it. And he also talked about even the other sectors, the main industry sector, where companies were given, an example was Procter & Gamble, were given a tax holiday. That's a pioneer status that enabled them to have a tax holiday. And after some time, it became obvious that the government could not protect even those industries. So it was easier to import than to manufacture locally. And of course, things have moved, have sort of become worse since then. So he painted all of this picture, and then in terms of going forward, addressing some of these issues were part of what he...
Yes, it was quite an interesting topic.
It was
because it was quite deep, and he laid the foundation for that.
He was indeed.
Yes,
he talked about debt, the debt profile,
Yes, yes. If you remember, I even started by asking him about Nigeria, and I told him I hated the word potential because 60 years after a man that is 60 years old should not be talking about potential. But he put it in context and said no doubt Nigeria had a great potential. And he further said that frightening challenges remain with Nigeria against enormous economic potential, which summarizes the urgency of our situation. Yes, he did well with that. And I asked him if Nigeria was a rich or poor country, which is situated quite all right.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
We've just touched around leadership, governance, economy. One of the most do I put it, widely circulated episodes that went quite viral in 2024 was the topic I had with Dr. Rashid Abasi, who is a medical doctor out of Washington, and he has a practice in Lagos, Nigeria here. And we discussed the nexus between health and wealth. But during the course of the conversation, he drew my attention to the fact that there is this pandemic going about, and that is affecting a major strategic chunk of our population who are value creators. That's how he put them. And these people are between the ages of 50 and 65. And he says if we don't tame this pandemic called prostate cancer, then Nigeria is in for it, because this group of people, when they suffer, their health suffers, their businesses suffer, and the pool of people they have in employment will suffer as a consequence, because when they go down, their businesses go down, and then we lose jobs. So if you remember, that was quite a topic where I asked him about the nexus between health and wealth. But he went into the challenges of prostate cancer, and in fact, subsequent edition, he even went about talked about polygamy and his own opinion on polygamy and linked it to health. What did you think of that episode?
Yeah, I think it was a bit hilarious because again, this course, the way it's structured is every topic has a linkage to the economy deliberately, which is fine. And indeed, he was also having that conversation, linking it to the health of a critical chunk of the
productive population,
of the productive class, the leadership class, as a matter of fact, because a lot of time people in their 40s to 50s are the senior managers in the organizations, the managing directors, even the governors, the commissioners, and the leadership. So it was quite an important topic, and brought out a point that indeed men's health is one that is not taken as priority even in public health compared to women and children. So it was important. It was good, but the point of 21 days took. Maybe because of the morale of the people wanted something they could talk about, different from the economy and how hard things have become. So he provided a bit of an elixir to people, the 21 days issue. And interestingly, people were asking for episode 2, which you also gave them.
Yes.
And he expanded further on it. And it was thought that the discourse, that particular episode, the View, Women on the View in the TVC, now went ahead to discuss it extensively and even invited him over to further elaborate on it. So it was quite topical. Set the social...
So the thunderbolt for that episode was it 21 times?
Yes, and
what was it all about?
He said men needed to have an activity on that side with their wives for 21 days.
Yes, I remember.
And then if they couldn't get it with their wives, they could get it elsewhere.
They could outsource.
So, and they taught on what you call sensitive cultural practices.
Yes.
And for us in the South, is one man, one wife. And then, of course, in the North, they are polygamous. Interestingly, on the View, one of the women whose, I think, grandfather was a polygamist, confirmed that indeed his grandfather was quite healthy almost to the very end, compared to her father, who married one wife. It was quite an interest. But I think let's not lose the meat of the conversation, which is the men's health. And one of the things he suggested there was that because that test of what you call a PSA test was something that is very expensive or relatively expensive for people, and it should be more like a routine test. And if government could make it in such a way that it's a basic test and then cover the cost, whether your insurance or whatever could cover the cost, why for me, I had attended one LBS breakfast meeting, and there's an LBS breakfast meeting every month anchored by Bismarck, where different people are brought in to speak. Some years back, one guy, I think was managing director of Pfizer International then, he put on the board a kind of a schematic, a chart of Nigeria's population. And what he said was that, look, we have spent so much amount of time and resources as a country to combat infectious diseases like HIV and even malaria. But the non-infectious diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and cancer was wiping away our productive sector. So he put that chart. It was quite
instructive. Yeah,
it was quite instructive then. And so when this Abasi thing came, when the topic came, it connected.
Yes.
But somehow the 21 days took away the message,
times,
or 21 times rather, took away the message that this government intervention got lost in the message, and also the fact that men don't really take care of their health like women do. And talked about his clinic, that it was in some kind of close to a bank that people could sneak in, because men don't want to be seen to have issues with that side of their life. So
they pretend as if they are going to the bank.
Exactly.
And by the side door they go into his clinic. So it was quite a hilarious.
It was quite a hilarious.
Like you said.
But it also set some questions. Like, are we hiding our head in the sand? Really? Because there are, as I say, prevention is better than cure.
Yes.
And in medicine, there are, I think, two branches of medicine and then surgery. So what you don't want to do is do whatever you can to make sure you are healthy. But because it touches on family and the family structure, especially from family structure that are backed by our religion, of one man, one wife for those who are Christians. And of course, the Muslims don't have that issue because they're entitled to marry 4 wives.
Okay.
It's still a bit controversial.
Yes.
And it's still, and I think if this episode were to track the trend of that episode, it probably would be, would have hit many millions of
about 5.3 globally, 5.3 billion globally. Yeah. So it quite trended. So that brought us to the next episode, and which not necessarily back to back, but which of course gathered a lot of dust, a lot of traction, and that was the episode where we discussed. Our guest then was David Echetabu, who is wealth management queen, like they call her. She has extensive experience in wealth creation and management. And we were discussing wealth. And the question was, aren't we all gold diggers? And she stunned me by saying that she's the number one gold digger. So are we all gold diggers?
I think it was I think that was a bit of an off-cuff episode, if you like. But like we said, if you reflect back, you also see how it connects with the economy. We take individual decisions that will benefit us, whether in marriage, in relationships, and all of that, because that was where you also were taking it to. And at the end of the day, individuals follow their personal interests. Although we can talk about group interests, but those who lead us find a way to align personal interests to group interests so that they can coalesce. At the end of the day, we are indeed all gold diggers, whether we like it or not.
Yes, so because where she caught me, because I was trying to put an argument that we are not all gold diggers. She said, no, we are. Even the corporates, the multinationals, the banks. She said everybody is gold digging. Yeah. And why did she say that? She said you are busy shortlisting only first-class graduates or people who make 2-1. And you don't want to employ others. That, as far as she's concerned, that was gold digging. So from that perspective, really and truly, not just individual, but even the corporates are also gold digging.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So another lady that made a fantastic appearance on the Discourse was Ayo Mairo Ese, and we discussed the beauty and challenges of superstardom. How did that episode go? The challenge there was that when you watch those people, they are superstars, so to say. It looks like all glamour.
Yes.
But that topic revealed that it's not just all glamour. There's a lot of challenges that come with superstardom, isn't it? So, a woman or a man or marriage, the pressure, expectations from society. She was quite able to put it in perspective. That it's not just all glamour. That it comes with responsibilities.
Being what do you call it? People in showbiz, they also have to show example, because anything they do, people will talk about them. So it's a bit of a challenge for people in that space, in the public space, because we can use the showbiz, or we can use the people who are popular in that light. But even people who are leading, because they say it's lonely at the top. The managing directors of this world, the whole organization is on their head. Even the politicians, the governors, the presidents, but at the end of the day, they are quietly on their own, and nobody cares whether they are fine or not. So that the 2 episodes, brought to the fore, the challenges that they go through.
So then another topic of 2024 that was quite interesting was when I brought Charles Bola Lojode. Fantastic resource, by the way. And we discussed the Japa phenomenon. So I was asking him, because things have settled down now because we've come to terms with it, both the Japa and the Japada. phenomenon. But that time it was really very high top on the topical media list of discussion. And Bolaho came here and he actually x-rayed what the Japas meant and what it took to consider that kind of foray and the pros and cons of the Japa phenomenon.
Yeah, I think I'm sure you know that topic is one that is actually close to my heart.
Yes.
And I think it was in 2023 we did that.
Yes.
The issue is still expanding, especially in the medical space. Is it that of medical doctors? That's the one we are seeing. And but what we have not taken note of, the across all professions really, if the UK is now advertising for physics and mathematics teachers and taking our physics and mathematics, that's secondary school teachers, from here in Nigeria, that tells you a lot.
It's a predicament.
And then we need to watch it.
Yeah.
The oil industry, we say, that we used to produce 2.5 million barrels a day. Now we're on 1.3 million barrels a day. The oil industry has also lost a lot of people, a lot of good people. Because a lot of times, some of these things, they have what you call lagging effect. You don't see the immediate effect. It's much later, something goes wrong. You say, could the root cause have been because of so? You see, even the banks recently were struggling to transit to a new software. Part of the problems they also have is that a lot of the talent that used to do these things, they've all left, and some of them are even working from Canada and America or anywhere else where the time zone difference is such. It's like 8 hours or 6 hours, as the case may be. And to coordinate with them becomes a big issue. So in all sectors, the Japa syndrome has become, my family people are in the medical space. My sister-in-law in Lut, who's a consultant there, she's practically doing what you call a house job instead of being a consultant, because the house officers, that is what you call junior doctors, have all left. If you have emergencies, God help you, or if you have complications, even the consultants are leaving. That's the consultants. The consultants are the highest level of the medical specialists in whatever specialist you talk about. So we can all be busy with all the money we are talking about, money, sharing money. But it's when the life is at stake, that's when it becomes clear to us that, this is a big issue. Although the government has now responded to say, okay, we're going to expand the medical teaching facilities, because as you know, medicine is one area that to get into it, you have to score like 300, over 300
score
marks in JAM to be able to get in. It's highly competitive. So they say they are now going to expand the intake of medical students. But of course, I also have people in the universities. They're also saying that the teachers who should teach them, they're also leaving. Also in the university itself, that is the lecturers itself, in the area of science, technology, professors are leaving.
Creative economy.
They are leaving. And it's something that it should actually be a major emergency for us. We should really look at it. Okay. Although the other side of it, I remember we talked about the other side of it, that they will be sending in diaspora money. But what we have not seen is the increase of diaspora money since they left.
Then the eventual transfer of skill.
Yeah, well, yeah, fine. That is a lagging effect.
Long term, yes.
But as they say, in the long run, everybody is dead.
Yes.
But for now that we are living, we are missing their services.
Okay.
We are missing their services.
Yeah. So one other topic that caught my attention, and the polls showed that, was the topic around challenges of mental health. And I brought Dr. Memuna Yusuf Kadiri to the studio on the Discourse to discuss that. Dr. Memuna Yusuf Kadiri, spoke around psychological mental health, emotional mental health, social mental health. In fact, what touched me was when she posited that 50% of lifetime mental health issues manifest before age 25. That was quite scary. And she went ahead to discuss with me situational mental health issues, loss of loved ones, for example, and in that case, you get people becoming clinically depressed. Economic condition takes its worst turn, temporary than whatever. So generally, the mental health issue episode was quite one that was quite touchy, and it was quite interesting. What was your take around it?
Yeah, I think it's also a very, very interesting topic, and thank you for bringing her on the discourse. Because sometimes when you look at what the discourse stands for, it will not be, unless it's explained to you, to connect the topic of the day to the wider purpose of discourse, which is the economy, the wider public space, So she was able to tell us that, the mental, it's only when people is already psychotic, it's already crazy, it's on the streets. That's when we say, oh, the person is mad, and then, but there are a whole lot of mental challenges going around, and depression, and then it's something that is quite on the rise, and the root causes, some are emotional, so quite a lot is economics, of course. But one of the questions you asked, I think you asked, which she answered it in one way, is whether our leaders, whether it's something we need to get a mental certificate from our leaders before they get elected into office. Although she said it was not necessary, but I really think, given some of the things that
we're seeing
and witnessing, you wonder whether some people in position of authority
could have passed that test.
Whether they could have passed that, and whether even some of the decisions that are being taken, which affects the public, that sound crazy, but we're already suffering from it.
Yeah.
So whether we shouldn't really have another look at that process.
Yeah. I'll bring Dr. Kadiri Memuna. Maybe we'll make that a topic in 2025, and then give it a robust conversation, because that topic for me was quite interesting. Yes. She talked about the effects around, which mental health brings around education and academic situation and challenges.
Yeah.
Career job pressures, when you talk about promotion, dismissal, loss of interest, these are things we take lightly.
Exactly.
A lot of people get depressed when discussions around promotion, dismissal, loss of interest. The marriage and childbearing, she actually gave it a lot of time. Divorce and fallouts, and then of course japa and fall of expectation coming from new environment and harsh economic situation and inflation. So we'll bring Dr. Memuna for sure this year in 2025 to give more light to it. Now, Sanel Sinahaneku, this is a topic as we speak. A lot of people are suffering because of this topic, and it had to do with the English Premier League and the power of the English Premier League. Whether you like it or not, you suffer from it either directly or indirectly. If the husband is happy and upset, it cascades down the family. And I brought the Geomoto who put this into context. So what a topic it is, and do you think it's a topic we need part 3, part 4? in 2025 because Deji Omotoyebo gave it the credit and it did justice to it. The English Premier League and the power of it.
Yeah, well, I think again the sports because there are business of sports which connects with the reason of being of the discourse. That is the economy of it, the business of it, and how sports, football especially, since we love football so much in Nigeria, could contribute to our economy. Yeah, that's, for me, my own interest. I know at the end of the day, you guys discuss Arsenal. It's like everybody on the team was Arsenal on the day. It's fine. Yeah, I think that I think you can also help me here because you guys concentrated on which of the people on the league table was going to drop and which one was going to survive.
Because what they did that day put everything in context because people think that the league consists of 20 teams, isn't it?
Yes.
So different pain for different folks.
Yes.
And how did they put it in context? There are people whose business is to survive. The league.
Yes.
And for them is more important than even winning the league.
Yes.
Then there are people whose major interest and vision is to qualify for Europe.
Yes.
And that is Conference League and the Europa Cup.
Yes.
And then there are other people who say, listen, we're a top 4 team. And considering the budget we deploy every year versus the achievement we make, that is in fact enough for us and it represents success. While others say, listen, if you don't win the EPL, you are useless. So they point to the fact that for 20 years you've not won it, for 30 years you've not won it. The team that is on top of the league, for example, this season has won it once in 30 years. And in fact, they won it during COVID when nobody was watching. And I'm talking of Liverpool, isn't it? So everybody suffers, and the Omotoyebo actually put it in context. So that's the importance of the EPL. And you know what happens? When you win, you have your beer. When you lose, you console yourself with your beer. But the family suffers too, isn't it? Exactly. How does it affect the families? And
well, again, you guys all poured it out on the day where the women, I think it was at the onset of the premiers. I think there was in August or something like that, where the premiership was just resuming. So you sort of previewed that it's more like a preview of the premiership. Premier League episode, and of course at the end of the day you guys ended up to say Arsenal was going to win the league this year, but that's a different thing. And that Southampton will survive, but the way it is now, I'm sure it doesn't seem that they will. I think they probably will drop. But I think the bigger issue was that how big that league is, and the amount of money pouring into it, and the amount of attention it's getting, especially from Nigerians. And I think one of the questions was asked from the audience to say, this energy, why can't we put it in our own local league? If we, it will take a lot of people off the streets. It will make the kind of size of money economy that the Premier League is generating, of which even on the social side, where you say, look, when the day of football, and on a Saturday, that incidence of crime has been measured to be low. So that can be translated even here. We need the benefit of what that brings, apart from the money that it brings. So it's something to look at. And then, of course, we talked about the sports minister. In between that, he's been moved, of course, since then. And then, of course, now we don't even have Minister of Sports. We have the Sports Commission. I don't know how that helps us. You are better at it, and to professionalize that ministry, to bring to make its own contribution to the economy, because it's a big lever. It can lift the youths. It can lift many things. You know, the merchandise around sports is
the
so
commercial
much.
side of it.
It's a lot.
It's huge. Yeah.
You know,
in fact, if well deployed, it can measure up to 50% of our GDP.
Yes.
So why we are not paying sufficient interest is another matter to be discussed. But we'll discuss it this year during the discourse.
Yeah.
I have a message from Michael from Ajay. He said, please, Dr. Ken, now you're mentioning suffering. Please don't mention Manchester United. What exactly is he saying, Mr. Nelson?
I know my brother is a Manchester United fan, and my son is Manchester United. I think
it's a temporary setback.
These days, I remember when Liverpool used to suffer defeats. I remember this, our friend the other one. Yes. He would say before Liverpool played, then he would first of all have his lunch, you know, so that not after, if they now lose, he knows that he's
fine.
He's fine.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
I cannot leave today without mentioning the episode around artificial intelligence and the future of business.
You need an infrastructure, because a lot of time, like we say, we put the cart before the horse. I mean, a country like UK, well, under Sunak, say, look, we want to make the UK the center of artificial intelligence, which, although it's a boast, America has taken off on it, you know. But what infrastructure are we placing? You know, are we putting in place to help us to transit to this new world? And I think the Minister of Communication was talking about laying fiber optics across the country, about 5,000 kilometers or some very high number. You know, not leaving it to the telecom companies alone. And I think that would be a big, because you need that baseline infrastructure to deliver on it. People like to talk about the software side of it, which is, you know, as we say, but the hardware part of it, we really need that baseline before we can effectively translate. Otherwise, even our normal phones, we know how long it takes to send a message. You are on this, some of the episode you did it on when you are outside the country.
Yes.
You need all of those infrastructure to deliver on it. So whether it's the artificial intelligence, which requires quite a lot of data, a lot of infrastructure to deliver on. And I think that is a message that we have to send, that that with the government, with the telecom companies, need to upgrade the infrastructure to be able to accommodate this artificial intelligence, which is actually, I mean, it affects our agriculture. We can do all this one that we are dealing with insecurity. We're dealing with insecurity, agriculture, and all of that. Artificial intelligence with robots can easily do quite a lot of things that human beings are doing now. You know, and that can help us deliver on our 1 trillion economy.
Thank you very much. So my
travel and all of that.
Yes, okay, my guest today was Sir Nelson Ahaneku, FCA. Time runs. It's already 1 hour. There are a lot of other topics we didn't touch today, but 2024 was quite eventful with the discourse, and we are hoping that 2025 will even be better. Thank you for coming to help us put it together, to summarize, to look at those topics that really caught our attention in 2024. And we hope that when we call on you in 2025, you make your good self available. Thank you, listeners, for all you did and all your contributions to the discourse in 2024. And we look forward to that followership and listenership in 2025. All the very best of the new year, I wish you. Sir Nelson, remember the tradition. Do you have the song for the week and the proverb for the week?
My proverb for the week would be, as a 1 year ways, on your son, so. You know,
can you take that again?
as in 1 year ways.
Okay. Yeah, what does that mean?
A direct translation is that your relation is a king. It's not forbidden for you. You know, it's the delight of everybody. You know, so my song or rather my music for the week will be Lee Oscar, Before the Rain.
Thank you very much. Have a great week ahead of you, and it's a new working week, new working year, and please have a productive one. Bye.
And that's it on The Discourse with Dr. Ken.